party leader could not make it to this function.
During the second day of the Orange Party meeting in Mombasa, with the party leader Oburu Odinga not present, his address was delivered by Deputy Party Leader Simba Arati. In his message, Oburu maintained that he still controls the party.
That we can only have one command center. We cannot have multiple voices issuing conflicting party position. I will continue to provide guidance, and together with the trustees.
Cabinet secretaries who have long been accused of politics defended their continued participation in party events, vowing unwavering loyalty to the party they credit for their political rise.
And the issues that we have, whether from the ministry or from government, because we are there, we pass through those officials.
So we have come to demonstrate unity in ODM, and that ODM is one.
Na tutabaki kuwa watu wa ODM. Kama ni mawaziri ama si mawaziri, sisi ni watu wa ODM.
The party has come up with a number of resolutions, including tasking its secretary to deploy and enable all regions to pick teams to scout interested candidates willing to contest on the ODM ticket for all elective positions. The party has also urged the government to settle its outstanding political party funding arrears amounting to 12 billion Kenya shillings. The funds Orange Party says will be critical to sustaining its operations.
To fully release political party funds to political parties to fund the activities of all political parties.
Despite all the efforts to save the ship, cracks are widening more and more in the party. The Deputy Organizing Secretary Ruth Odinga has posted on her social media, and I quote, "Those who rudishad Raila ni wengi. Today I saw them in their true colors, and I will respond very soon. Be sure, sitanyamaza, Mbadi." End of quote. Quinto Wafula, TV47, Mombasa.
All right, we continue with our discussions right here on State of the Nation, TV47 Breakfast with me, Fred Ndimuli. I'm still here with Hesbon Owila, Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui, and Michael Agwanda. And we now want to talk about ODM, a party that has been the biggest parliamentary party for quite a while, for decades. Now only second to UDA party, anticipating a big coalition between the two parties, but it is marred by wrangles and fractions within the same party. The party held a 3-day retreat in Mombasa, which ended yesterday, and came up with quite a number of resolutions. Interestingly, those who were there appeared to offer or to extend an olive branch to the other people. And let's start there. Do you think there's any chance right now that that could happen? They kept on talking about the unity of the party. Do you think at this point that is even something to talk about, that Linda Mwananchi grouping will wake up one day and say, okay, we are walking back to ODM as it was?
I think so. I think in politics you can't rule out anything. There are two things. You look at ODM Linda ground, and ODM is still a very consequential party. It's still bigger than UDA. If you consider the fact that the UDA...
No, just talking about parliamentary numbers.
Yes, parliamentary numbers that are on paper. The reality on the ground is that a few of them have since, gone. The latest being the governor of Murang'a.
Yes.
So on paper, you can actually say that UDA is big, but the reality is, for the last 20 years, ODM is probably the most consequential political party. And I think for them to maintain that stature, and going into the 2027 general election, the most prudent, my understanding is that the most prudent thing for them to do is retain those numbers. Now, if you go with the Oburu faction, I don't think you'll have the ODM, but it's more of a shell. A lot of those bigwigs in ODM, if they go with UDA in a coalition, a lot of them will fall, especially without zoning. A lot of them. In fact, the loudest of them will be fell by 11 in the morning. And I think that realization has dawned on them. That's why they're extending an olive branch. And the possibility of that happening is real, because if you look at the Linda Mwananchi team, where is it headed? It's very difficult to say where it is headed, but we certainly know what they need. They need a political party that will accommodate the political capital that they believe they have amassed. So if you have a situation where by coming back to the ODM, the Oburu Odinga-led ODM, they get a bit of their way, what they want, a democratic process to get a party leader, and I know they can't do an election. Just a consensus-building mechanism to retain ODM as it were.
Even what they stand for, including whether or not William Ruto should be re-elected?
But wait a minute, what do they stand for? If I ask you, what do they stand for? I mean, you can't tell Kenyans that the only thing you stand for is Ruto must go. I mean, clearly, that's a lot of noise. It's pretty much what Rigiji is doing. When you keep telling us that the president is this and that, and you're not telling us, you know, in a traditional democracy, as it were, the alternative regime that is out of power hogs the media by telling us what the regime that is in power is doing or not doing that is affecting us negatively. And they're not doing that. And besides that, you've got to offer an alternative and say, now, this is what they're doing, which is not right for Kenyans. Now, this is what we'll propose to do. So by the time these guys will realize that they've not been offering Kenyans anything, and now they coalesce together, probably they shall have scattered because they'll have one of their own, they won't agree. So if you ask me, there's a real possibility, and probably that possibility is occasioned by the fact that the reality on the ground is that a divided ODM two factions doesn't help the Sifuna group, and neither does it help the Oburu Odinga.
What is this that could bring these two groupings back together? Because just the need for a political vehicle? Currently, they speak cross purposes, totally. Just because we need a political vehicle, we know that they can start a political party anytime they deem fit. Do you see that possibility that at some point Linda Mwananchi may just turn around and say, okay, fine, we're walking back home?
With respect, no. I don't even see it. Both groups, the factions in Linda Mwananchi, in ODM, are entrenched in their respective positions. And you can see Honorable Orengo, for instance, says that, look, I do not recognize Oburu Odinga, and I'll go ahead and declare myself. I mean, I want you all to know. So that sends out a message to their own followers that, look, we are done and dusted, done over with that faction of ODM. So to really convince that same group that there is a reconciliation, and I don't think that is going to happen, given the thin timelines that we have between now and the election period. Because you see, they who are in both camps are geared towards achieving one thing, either re-election or the securing of positions in the political platforms. Now, the fragmentation of ODM has a beneficiary. And in that particular meeting, the convocation that was happening in ODM, I believe UDA or Ruto had his own people there taking notes and seeing how far they can weaken or decimate that ODM faction. Why? Because he stands to entrench himself. And look at what happened to ANC. ANC is the cautionary tale of what not to get into with UDA. Because Honorable Musalia goes into this government arrangement with his UDA bag. And then while he is in that government, he's stripped of that ANC bag. And he doesn't have anything. Hana mkoba. Hana mahali anaweza ingiza mfuko wake sasa. Aende atoe. Na hii kimezani, na kile mezani. He has nothing. He has nothing, as it were. So, and that is a game plan. That's the end game that Ruto foresees to achieve in this Oburu Odinga's faction. Now, the challenge for him is that the Sifuna faction has proven, it has slipped away from him. He cannot be able to stifle, control, or otherwise have any meaningful impact on them. Now, they, on the other hand, have taken a trajectory because they foresee themselves as cutting off completely from the, Oburu Odinga faction and seizing that, political base. That's what they want. And that's why a political vehicle is not an issue.
It's not enough.
I mean, for them, no. I'm saying what they want to do is appeal to the masses. A, the Ruto regime has failed you as a people. B, we would like then to restart this afresh, and we have cut off ourselves from this. And then more importantly, for them, the Honorable Raila Odinga never actually endorsed Ruto's second term. And we are actually carrying on his aspirations, as opposed to they who are stuck with that faction of ODM with UDA. Now, they want to paint that group as, Tumbocrats. I mean, people who are just only looking after themselves. And therefore, the impression created in that political base of ODM is that that faction cannot lead me beyond where I am right now. I'm going to sink. So, with tremendous respect to Hesbon, I differ with him to that extent that, just saying Ruto must go. The average person wants to see what is a glimmer of hope? What is it? Where is a ray of hope that I can see? Because I'm just surrounded, engulfed by this sheer darkness that has come about using this political platform. And therefore, I see, in my humble view, the decimation of that Oburu Odinga's faction, the rise outside of OGM, of the Sifuna-led or Linda Mwananchi group.
Okay. But it does not escape our notice the fact that ODM's demands before even the coalition talks begin, have kept on changing. First it was 50-50, then power, then respect. Now coming from this retreat, there's this demand for payment of monies owed to the party. We talk about 12 billion shillings by the government. Now, this discussion around the money, do you think it could be enticing enough for the Linda Mwananchi, who still believe that they too own a part of this party? That if at all the government was to release even half that amount, 6 billion for example, or even a quarter of it, that they would feel that also we have a right to that kitty and that would be enough to take them back. Do you think so?
When you, I like the way you've sort of broke it down in a nice way. 50-50 and then power, and then now they're talking about the money part of it, and but you've forgotten one thing that I think has come very, very clearly from this retreat in Mombasa. You've also mentioned respect, but you've forgotten to mention the fact that they are saying they want to be in unity. They want to be a stronger party. And I think for the first time since all the squabbles began, I saw a number of ministers who were serving in Ruto government, but from ODM zone, attend the retreat, other than Wandai, who was out of the country with the president. Those ministers were there. I saw Joe there, Minister Joe there. I saw Minister of National Treasury and Planning, who was there, Mbadi there. I saw Minister of Cooperative, Wycliffe Oparanya was there. And a number of dignitaries that are actually serving in government. And it gave me a sense of relief that indeed the party that we thought was weakling is not actually weakling, that even those experts that were seconded to the government were there and still saying, look, we are part of ODM and we want to make ODM stronger. And that was a very, very important message to the country and to government. Fred, I will tell you, there's been a little bit of jittery and uncertainty about these people who were seconded, experts who were seconded to government, because a number of them have not been speaking about the party other than the government, and the government is UDA. And so there have been issues of people saying, why are you just propagating the philosophy and the ideologies of UDA and not necessarily of the party, which is ODM, that made you be in those positions? And I think when they were in Uganda, when they were in Tanzania, they made it very clear. Not Tanzania, I'm so sorry, Mexican issues here. When they were in Mombasa, we've just come from Tanzania. They made it clear that we want to make this party stronger. We know for certain that even one of the ministers said, I am ready to even resign, but to continue strengthening the party. And I think that was said by none other than Joe himself, to strengthening this party, because they know with a stronger party, you will find yourself in government. If you have a weaker party, you will not be on the table. You will not be discussed on the table. And I think that's what Honorable Buru is talking about, that it's power. And if you want power, again, you have to let people that you want know that you want power. And you have to work around it so hard. You have to put your troops together. You have to ammunition them. You have to ensure that they have the skills. You have to, like voting, you have to make sure that the places that you are having members of parliament, governors, are not taken away with other people, because if you do that, you weaken your soldiers. And for you to talk about power, first of all, you got to know that you have that power. And when you consistently talk about it and you gather your troops to go for that war that you have ahead of you, it will happen. But if you don't talk about it, people will take you for no,
But it's one thing to talk about unity. Already there are differences. But the question is, what is this thing that will bring them together? Because so far they have a lot of differences. And hence my question, that even as Secretary General, Edwin Sifuna listing the 10-point MOU agenda, one of them is not interfering with political parties or strengthening political parties. And that, in essence, was paying dues to political parties. So at least that one, Edwin Sifuna would agree with. James Orengo says that he's actually the one who filed a case in court on the same issue. Don't you think that at least this, or the discussion around the money, is what they're looking at as probably not as a unifying factor, but as a rallying call for all troops to converge around?
No, I don't think so. I think most importantly, they're looking for power. I mean, any political party that wants to change the lives of people, and ODM has so many people who believe in the ODM movement, ODM ideology. So ODM would be well poised to look for power so that they, satisfy the aspirations of the people who look up to ODM. So that is for ODM. But I think for President William Ruto, he's looking for a second term. And I think disunited ODM doesn't help him in any way. A stronger ODM actually benefits this government, And probably Raila Odinga, before he died, knew that he needed to leave Kenyans at a point where Kenyans can have a base for articulating issues and for demanding issues. So the 10-point agenda will keep recurring, that to what extent are we faithful, fidelity to the 10-point agenda. So if you talk about not interfering in political parties, it's in the 10-point agenda. And it is, for all Kenyans, to celebrate the multi-party democracy that we have and to have a regime that does not interfere with the independence of political parties, whether by clamping down on them or frustrating the access to resources. Failing to give them the money. Yes. But I think for me, most importantly, is not ODM looking for power and cabinet secretaries resigning to strengthen ODM. The most important thing is strengthen ODM. That is one, because that is the only way then you can be on the table or go it alone. But secondly, because ODM got into this arrangement, whether BAMBA had envisioned supporting President William Ruto or not, I think that is indeterminate. We don't know. If BAMBA was here, we don't know what he would have done. But given the prevailing circumstances, I think ODM is better off pushing this government to adhere to the 10-point agenda. That is one. And then the second thing that would help them, besides the power that they'll have as a political party, is if the experts who are sent to government deliver. Because at the end of the day, it is Kenyans who are going to vote the next president. And it is incumbent upon the current president to ensure that these experts who came from ODM, the experts who are perceived to have allegiance to President Uhuru Kenyatta and came to the government, if they deliver, if Mbadi, for instance, as the National Treasury CS, delivers for all Kenyans, and Kenyans are happy with the equitable distribution of resources, Kenyans are happy with disbursement of resources to address the plight of the young people, Kenyans are happy with CS Joe and what he's doing in the mining industry. If that delivers for Kenyans, they wouldn't need to resign their positions to come and make ODM strong. ODM would still be strong, but if they unite, gather all, because if the incentive, let me tell you,
approach.
Yes, the incentive here for the Linda Mwananchi is that Dr. Buru Oginga is a bridge. Dr. Buru Oginga is not going to be the ODM party leader beyond a certain time period, and we know that. So the incentive here is how do you strengthen ODM and get to the negotiating table?
For the sake of the voters?
No, not for the sake of the voters, for the sake of Kenyans.
Because I'm approaching it this way.
Because it is Kenyans, whether they vote for you or not, the ones who give you the power, you will lead them. But how do you get to this point so much so that come 2027, you have a bigger stake of the regime that will be formed for you to be on the table
let's be honest,
for 2032?
Let's be honest, these politicians, we know how they operate. For them to have a convergence of interests, and we've had it over and over, money has to be involved. That someone is paid either to be deputy president or to be running mate or something like that. Whether it happens or not, discussions are usually around the money. For politicians, the first interest is usually them, not really the voters. That's why I'm saying that would be the ideal way, but unfortunately we know...
Do I just respond? One. Yeah. Now let me tell you, and I come from a region where ODM is popular. It is assumed that it is rooted in that region. I can tell you for free, we've seen our politicians get into positions. We've seen cabinet secretaries. We saw NDP get into government with Moi. We saw Adu Awiti, Raila Odinga get appointed as cabinet secretaries. We also experienced the grand coalition government. We experienced the handshake government. We have experienced this, and I can tell you, the people on the ground are not going to be mesmerized by positions that are given to individuals. The people on the ground are looking at negotiations that will talk about the economic development in the regions. And my thinking here, based on the sentiments I've had on the ground, it is not a question of having a cabinet secretary or a certain chunk of cabinet given to Nyanza. It's a question of how do we tap on the economic opportunities in Nyanza.
And as you make your final comments, Wakili, my question is the allure of money to the politicians, not to the voters. Because at this point, I'm assuming this Linda Mwananchi, what interest would they have to come together at this point? What is the one thing that will bring them together, apart from money issues?
Yes, I agree with you. Apart from, excuse me, and this money is at that personal level. How do I stand to benefit? Key bono. I mean, like the quintessential, test that you use universally. I mean, you find who stands to benefit out of that. So if there is a unity that is perceived to be emerging, or at least emergent out of that, then you ask, okay, who stands to benefit? And you can hear the figures. I mean, they are mouth-watering for some of them because they can control the kitty. Not that the average person has access to that shilling or cent, but they can control it. And when they eye billions, whether or not they secure any seat, at least in the short term, they have access to that huge amount of money. Now, the conundrum, the fix, the blockade, the dead end, the cul-de-sac that I see the ODM of Abur-led getting itself into is twofold. Number one, the political advancement and the political ambition of UDA and Ruto-led government is expansion. And that is why you heard these resounding that zoning has to be emphasized. And for they who are supporting Ruto's re-election in ODM, I really wonder if they are not seeing that cul-de-sac. Because they will not escape from the shadow of the failures of the current government that has led this other faction to leave and cut off and sever from the ODM. So a point is coming where the average ODM member is going to say that, look, you want to give me a better economic platform, like Hezbollah is saying, but I do not see, your policies as ODM, how they will be different or how they will exceed what UDA is doing. So the second fixation of UDA and ODM merger that runs into a dead end is the time space that we have between now and the coming election. When does ODM, quintessential, the one that is looking for unification, end up selling those policies to the Kenyan people that they can buy? And for the seizure of power, for them, according to them, they want power. Now, you don't want power using the same edifice that you have taken with you to UDA, and therefore the shadow of UDA's failure or the current government is following you constantly. So these people, in my humble view, are living in this political cocoon where they have forgotten that you're dealing with among wiser elected people who are saying that we want change. And look, this one term for the president that is being said is not mere sloganeering. It is an expression of the dissatisfaction of that sort of leadership, political, economic, social, that has negated these average ODM members' existence on the ground. Okay. So the Sifuna-led is more appealing to them, and they are likely to disaffiliate and cut off from the Oburu wing because of the shadows.
Even if the money comes?
Even if the money comes. But, and this is very important, this average person, like I say, doesn't have control over that purse or how it will be spent. And the question is now, will this Oburu-led team have a convocation and saying that every member of ODM registered in our books, you show up at Kasarani, we will be dishing you out 6,000 or, whatever amount of money out of this kitty as, a member of ODM. Have they said so? All we are seeing is that, we want the government to release this money. But do you think the government that is dead broke, that is not able to have offer capitation, is going to afford you 12 billion?
All right.
Or even a fraction of it?
We only have about 30 seconds. I don't know if you can fit anything.
You'll be very,
we are out of time.
Very unfair to me. Let me say this. The 12 billion that ODM is looking for is not something that they're requesting, something they've gone to court. The court has awarded them, and it's supposed to be paid. This is not, we cannot, fault President Ruto on this. I think it began way back during Uhuru Kenyatta, and he just did not release the money. I don't think they will get the 12 billion. That's what they're asking for, and that's what it's in record that they're supposed to get. But at least they need to be given money to run some of their activities. Parties have a lot of stuff going on. If you look at the merchandise that are being bought up, every single day when they go to all these rallies. So it's not about these people taking the money and pocketing it. Parties also do a lot of civic education that they're supposed to do. Parties were involved just in the last few weeks here in voter registration and mass voter registration. And we saw how the numbers went up there. So really, and it's entrenched in the Constitution. This is a political party financing that is supposed to be given to parties without them asking. I really think it will only be justice for these parties, not just ODM, but all the other parties also to be.
Would it be enough to help the party unite, the 12 billion shillings?
I strongly believe that the unity of the party, especially on the two factions that we're looking at. First of all, you need to know that the Sifuna-led group is not necessarily, it is a renegade one. Dr. Oburu Odinga is the actually ODM party. And so when you say about two factions, you need to be wondering, which faction we are talking about. When ODM is Dr. Oburu Odinga as a party.
Fred, as you close,
yes,
you can see now what I was saying about the international cabal.
They don't. Okay, front page of the Business Daily. Yes. KDF gets 6 billion shillings for Israeli air defense amid Iran war. All right. Thank you so much, Michael Agwanda, political analyst, Wakili Harrison Kinyanjui, and Hesbon Owila, political analyst as well. Thank you so much for a very robust debate today on TV47 Breakfast. But we're not done yet. There's still more conversations coming here. Biashara pitch, second-hand clothes business. Anodida will be handling that conversation. And later on, we get into matters tech and innovation. My name is Fred Indemuli. Good morning.